Greetings, I'm Rodger Newbold, and welcome to episode number 33 of the Experienced Photography Vlog. My fellow photographer, my partner and editor in this episode, is Mr. Matt Rich. He's the man that, he knows his way around a camera, and he can keep us on the dotted white lines of any street. And we're going to be, are you out there, my friend? Are you going to be able to help us?
Anybody seen my camera?
Excellent. In our last episode, we investigated some of our favorite lens focal lengths. We tried to determine what makes us happy in our particular view of life. I would like to talk today about an area of photography that has been contending a lot for my attention recently. When I was much younger, I remember the big magazines, they splash photography around like tidal waves. Look, Life, Saturday Evening Post. There are many more. And they were just as popular as the Sears or Montgomery Ward catalog. Well, this is where America found its voice. We read opinions, not dogma. We viewed what others were doing around America, and we developed our outlooks within that forum. Usher Felig was born in June 12th, 1899, in the village of Zolchev, Austria. Well, now it's part of the Ukraine. He immigrated to the United States in 1909, and when he got to Ellis Island, an immigration officer, thank you, changed his name from Usher to Arthur. And later, became known as Ouija. Ouija the famous. Well, Ouija became famous because of his camera. He became one of the most celebrated street photographers of the day. In 1940, with a shortwave radio installed in his car, he remained tuned into police frequencies. And according to legend, the cops asked him if he had a Ouija board due to his clairvoyant ability to be at the right place at the right time. And so, street photography began. And the rest, they say, is history. Here's a shot of Ouija photographing the latest accident. The short newspaper snippets provided immediacy. America was lusting for more extended coverage, events that needed depth. World War II was brought home by images by street photographers like Robert Capa, whose motto was, hey, if you're not capturing the action, you're not close enough. Well, it worked until he was injured in an explosion. A little too close there, Bobby. Now, who can possibly forget Joe Rosenthal's memorializing photograph of the raising of the flag at Mount Suribachi? Rosenthal, here's a great photograph. Salute to you, man. However, nothing else has provided such luxury as the multiple page spreads on the Country Doctor by the photographs of W. Eugene Smith in the 1948 edition of Life magazine. Take a peek at the doc walking across the field trying to get to work. Here's the doc. He's stitching up a kid who's kicked in the head by a horse. Then the doc consulting with a patient. Pure concern for the little lady. The doc delivering a newborn. And the doc doing just his best in a really desperate situation. Smith was described as being absolutely great. Despite his thorny personality. He made warm, empathetic images, and they were really stirring. And they were also very stirring. Perhaps the single most important American photographer in the development of the editorial photo essay, Eugene Smith. Take a bow, buddy. His ability to raise such a responsiveness in the viewer's eyes got him beaten nearly to death twice in his career. In 1971, he was making photographs during the coverage of the mercury poisoning occurrence in Minamata, Japan. Smith was left penniless and severely beaten and injured. He had to rely on donations from his associates, even to getting back to the U.S. The power of photography is manifest. He did great work. By the 1950s, television pushed its way into our consciousness. But, it didn't exhibit the urgency of the moment, mostly because of big giant studio cameras that were in use. Street photography still continued to have the edge with the on-the-spot news shots. It wasn't until, way later when the TV news networks began to use smaller handheld video recorders to capture our attention. Today, we have bypassed the era of responsible, non-opinionated news coverage. But we only see the protagonists and their wobbly bits from their cell phone glued to a poor 10-second soundbite. Not a sporting way to see the news and get the facts, not at all. I bet, Cronkite's rolling in his grave. Most likely, TV and the internet will be with us forever. But the street photographer will always have their say. So, if we may, let's take a look at what's happening today at street level. People new to this genre may think street photography is easy to define. Well, let's take a look. Perhaps you could say that street photography is when the street and both the location and the subject is the street. But no, that's too simplistic. There are, in fact, many types of street photography, and there are many street photographers, and they all have a unique and distinct style. Street photography doesn't have a one set of rules and done. The definition is flexible, totally open to interpretation. It can be like many neighborhoods that have open, happy streets with a lot of excitement, and some narrow, dark, creepy streets. But you gotta have a map. Let's look at the map points. There is the unobtrusive street photographer. Yep. That's the guy that fits in. He becomes unobtrusive. He kind of fades into the bushes like Homer Simpson. There are some that do not interfere with the world around them. They have no part to play in the scene in front of them. They merely observe and shoot. They're camouflaged. They're just there. You don't even notice them. They dress like everybody else and they fade. These photographers would, wants their presence to go totally unnoticed. They stand back. They blend into the background. And their minimal impact allows the scene to play out as naturally as possible. Well, it's never possible to disappear completely, but it's about becoming an accepted, non-threatening presence. It's about hiding. It's not about hiding. It's not about hiding. It's about blending in. Now, the Parisian photographer Robert Doisneau did not interfere with a dancer's movements. The unobtrusive strategy allowed the photographer to capture an everyday life on the street. This approach allows him to get candid shots without intruding into the personal spaces. The photographer's lack of impact allows street life to just continue on as if they weren't even there. The street photographer observes an unmediated chance encounters, and they capture the real moments as they seemingly float by. However, Doisneau found it best not to be a target for this new writer. The art is in picking the subject, the lighting, the exact moment when to snap the shutter. You need to be observant and patient. Forcing the shots could disturb the natural balance of events. It's not advisable to have people become aware and then really self-conscious. This type of street photography lends itself to journalism and documentary type shooting. Now, both disciplines call for natural, true-to-life street scenes. But it's also an art form that can freeze a moment in time, that can bring back old memories and ignite our imaginations. Number 2 is the intrusive street photographer. Yeah, the intrusive guy has the opposite approach. They're not happy to sit back and watch the world float past. They want to make waves. They want to be involved. They still need to blend into the scene, but they surely do not go unnoticed. The intrusive photographer pursues active inclusion. They take, the people to make themselves known. Joel Meyerowitz got this shot. He became known. People knew he was there. He was in the mix, on the ground floor, September 11th. The intrusive style can produce vibrant images, alive, with energy and tension. The shots are candid, but in a way that's more contrived than totally unobtrusive. It doesn't blend in as well with traditional documentary photographers, but it's perfect for photographers who are interested in that style of photography. Meyerowitz, he didn't mind busting into the crowd for the action shot. Or he didn't mind hanging out a car window to grab a view as it putted by. Now, number 3 is the raw style street photographer. Yeah, the raw style is about finding what's underneath the surface. These photographers, they have a no-holds-barred approach. They expose the dark reality of street life. Not every street is a picturesque boulevard lined with market stalls and old men reading the newspaper. There are dark alleys, streets you shouldn't even walk at night. And Winogrand always put himself in the middle of his controversies. These are locations of raw street photographers. The subjects are troublemakers, barflies, drunks, the prostitutes, the Johns, the homeless, and sorry to say, the hopeless. They're the ones that are ignored and swept away by others. And Winogrand featured the ignored ones. Raw photographers bring them back into focus. They look under the rug. They expose everything society has swept underneath. Their work is not always easy to look at, and this type of street photography does raise a lot of issues about ethics. People are often caught in dangerous or compromising positions, but some people really have the goal of rugged realism. Now, number 4, street portraits. Many people wouldn't put portraits and street photography even in the same jail cell. Portraits are often associated with studio images. These days, street portraits are seen as something used for everything from casual snapshots to album covers. Here's Dylan playing chess. Nice album cover, Bob. Street portraiture is fascinating, and it's a great type of photography. The street can be used as a location for any kind of portrait. You can find new faces for portraits as you walk out along the sidewalk. People as subjects have always been an intriguing element as they bring warmth and abstractness to the world. You know, a pair of eyes are like a lighthouse in the sea of concrete. They help the viewer connect to the scene. Well, here's Dylan mugging for the camera as the portrait session just flows easily on. Street portraits can be staged or candid. That is a decision for the photographer to make. It depends on their style and what they meant to achieve. Number 5 is street fine art photography. Now, fine art and street are not usually considered even in the same breath. The former is generally about beauty and precision. The latter is about the hustle and bustle of the urban jungle. But the street can become the setting for photography that focuses on beauty. Now, Howard is not only a fan of fast cars, but he's an owner and an artist, and he deals with all things Ford. Take a look at this fine piece by my friend Howard Johansson. He uses his camera to create stunning street images. And he can preserve a view of the old ice house. Now, as with many of the street photography, the content of the photo is important. But with street fine art photography, the photo itself is most important because it is the subject. Fine art street photography finds beauty throughout the urban landscape. They use their skills in composition and framing to shoot captivating images. The process of shooting this kind of street work can be painstaking. Every detail is considered, and the camera placement just has to be exact. Now, number 6, street photography, fashion. Now, when people think about fashion, they think of big studios, gorgeous models, and catwalks. But in reality, the most important catwalk, it's the street. That's where most people see us and what clothes we like to wear and our fashion statements. Here's a picture of a girl in black by Schumann. Modern fashion photographers are certainly aware of what's going on in the street. They use it as a backdrop for their work. The main focus is still on the clothes, but the urban scenery adds a meaningful context to their imagery. Now, certain locations have associations, and you can make the clothes appeal to different demographics. Yeah, take a look at The Girl in White by Scott Schumann. This is where Scott Schumann got involved as a former fashion salesman turned lensman. He began the blog called The Sartorialist that I became familiar with a long time ago. He was making great shots on the street. And for your information, sartorialism is a noun about anybody interested in matters of or relating to the tailoring of clothing. Now, Scott saves the expense in rent and lighting He works mostly with a couple of zoom lenses. Scott shots of the girl in leather, and I think it's pretty fantastic. Now, 7, the geometric street photography. The street can be a really busy place, and if you're not careful, hey, you can get run over or be totally injured. Cars and cyclists race past, pushing and shoving here and there. It's like a big mess of movement. However, if you stop and look, you'll find hundreds of shapes and patterns just out there waiting for you to come and take them. I love this. Take a look at 23 steps. These shapes and patterns appear naturally in a very unnatural world. They could be shadows of paving slabs. They could be railings on a flight of stairs, or just simply the intersection of two walls. Geometric street photography has a distinct lack of clutter. It is a minimalist type of philosophy. The images are stark. The lines are clean. The shapes are clearly defined. You know, architecture offers many opportunities to the geometric photographer, and I don't see why anybody that lives in a town can't go out and find something in some building somewhere. One advantage to this style is that you can shoot easily in midday because shadows aid in the quest. A pattern and a matter of waiting for the light and a person to pass by is all you need. Many types of street photography focuses on things that move, but geometric works like static patterns. The photographer lets the world flow past, and while they're looking for shapes, it only requires a good zoom lens and some patience. Find the pattern, set up, wait, and get a picture, said the spider to the fly. You know, geometric panels lead the way. Well, we have had more to explore here on the street, but I don't want to wear out our welcome completely today. We want to be like the guy who knows how to play the accordion, but doesn't. No offense to the squeeze box or to their caretakers, but if you have enjoyed our tips so far today, in this presentation, please share them with your friends. Get out and do some photography together. Give a big thumbs up. Tinkle that bell for new content. You know, if you help us build our site, we get more content and it helps you build your skills. We are always trying to offer something new directed for you. Remember, when ideas are shared, they don't just add up, they multiply. Now, we're going to pick up right here next episode. And, as I always say, a tip of my hat to you, my good friends. Until we meet on screen again, cheerio.